one thing is for certain. If you're in your own business, you're going to have to learn about sales. You're going to have to do sales. Welcome to today's episode of Soapbox Wisdom. I'm Barbara Menino.
And I'm Christine Rothdeutsch.
And yes, we're here to talk about sales today. But before we really get into it, we want to remind you to like, share, or comment as you watch this episode. So sales is such an interesting topic. And I find in talking to people, it can be a topic that intimidates people, especially if they come out of a corporate environment where they had to produce with a particular skill. And now suddenly they're in their own business. And in addition to pursuing their particular area of expertise, in order to make money and grow the business, they have to be able to sell. So I noticed that a lot of time is spent in coaching programs, gearing people up for the right sales methods, and especially addressing the mindset of sales, even switching the emphasis from the word and the connotation of the word sell to serve. Sales as service. You're helping others. You're solving a person's problem. You're making their life better. And interestingly, in talking to people, I find that shift in meaning and action gives them a different feel, makes them more energetic about the sales side of growing their business. What do you feel or think about that, Christine? Sales as service? Sales as intimidating? What's your thought?
Well, gee, we only have a limited amount of time here, so I guess I have to keep my comments short here. It's funny, Barbara, as we were preparing for this episode, I was trying to think back about how I felt about sales in the beginning or conversations I had. And honestly, when I first started my business, I didn't even think about what I needed to learn to make sales. It was just hang out the shingle and people are going to come to me and say, I want to work with you. And I found that wasn't the case. But I find it interesting sometimes over the years, not so much recently, but before I started wording things the right way. I remember one woman in particular that was in a network marketing company, and we were having a conversation. I said, "Oh, I can't sell products. I sell my services, but I can't sell somebody." She said, I don't sell. I was like, "Oh, excuse me." It was, we share the products, we share the knowledge, but she was very adamant on like, we don't sell. So, all right, semantics. It's like, all right, you got me on that one. But the people that really do get sales, yeah, you are of that mindset of you are serving, you're sharing knowledge. And I like the one that you hear sometimes of if you're not selling, you're doing the community a disservice. You've got something of value. And if you're not asking for the sale, it's like somebody out there is hurting. Now I know there's probably lots of stuff out there that people don't need, but the general thought is that if you're not actively trying to make a sale to help somebody, that you're doing a disservice and that you really are needed. But that's something that I've had to learn, and believe me, I've still got a long ways to go myself, on that. But, yeah, the thing about sales, it still is elusive to many of us. And they're to how many groups you're in, they're like, "Well, we're not here. It's not about making connection just to make a sale. It's like you have to get to know the person first." Um, uh, Yeah, so many different aspects of sales, but you have to be okay with that subject, because just throwing stuff out there and hoping that somebody's gonna say, "Hey, I wanna do business with you, Barbara." Boy, that you're never gonna grow. Never.
That's the field of dreams approach.
Yeah,
Build it and they will come. You
yeah.
definitely have to work about bringing business through the door. That's
Mm,
very interesting. I've never heard the word share used. So I thought that that was an interesting edit on the
mm,
part of the woman that you were speaking to that time. But
mm,
I have definitely heard that idea that if you're not putting your products and services out into the world, you're denying people of something that they want, but also that they need, something that will address a pain point that they have
mhm.
or solve a problem, which gets you to the point of ideal customer, don't you think? Because sales are not just random. You're not
Mhm.
selling to everyone. As a matter of fact, when we think of everyone as our market, we kind of dilute the ability to clearly and accurately talk about our product or service, what
Mm.
we're really interested in. And then this is really serving and sharing, to use your word. When you're hitting your ideal customer, when you're reaching your ideal customer, you are getting to someone who has a particular problem, and your solution fills that need and actually can make their lives better in that specific area. I do think, because the concept of sales was very intimidating to me too, as a creative, when I went out on my own
Mm.
thinking, oh, I'm good at my craft, I'm great at my craft, but I got to make other people know about me. It was a little intimidating, but when you do talk about serving or sharing, what happens is it becomes more natural. It becomes a part of everyday business or everyday living or everyday giving. And when you then start addressing relationships, which we hear all about today, and it's right, you're building relationships. Once again, it's person to person, and it becomes a more natural process.
Yes, and then but the so you're out there sharing and having conversations, but the ultimate sales part of it comes in knowing how to guide a conversation. You might be talking to somebody that, yes, what you have is absolutely what can help them, but how often are they just saying no without really understanding the difference in their life it can make because they're just looking at price? It's like, "Oh, no,
Right.
no, I can't afford that." But it's having that, expertise in guiding the conversation, and I am not by any means saying you should be talking somebody into buying something just so you can make a sale. Absolutely not. But our minds are so filled with options and we've got this thing going and that thing going. But when you can get really deep as to how this product or service can make a difference in your life, is it a short-term different? Is it going to happen quickly? Is it going to take time? But opening up people's minds to the possibilities of how their life can change. There are many things out there that people are jumping into, and this is one of my soapbox moments, is programs, learning things. It's like, and they have no reason to really be there. They got drawn into something. But when you can really see the path, especially when it's services, programs, things like that. When you can see a clear path to the end result and the difference it's gonna make, you're doing that person a service by showing them that,
Indeed, you are.
you
And
know?
the key to that is digging deep to really understand where they are. To your point, so many services out there, and people jump, and a particular service that they're buying or even a product may be appropriate for them somewhere down the line, but not today. So the key is, as you're having a sales conversation, is to dig deep to find out where they are in their business, what they're uncomfortable about in their business, where are the gaps for them. The idea is to find out more about them and to talk less about yourself, because the more you talk about
Mhm,
yourself, you can turn people off. But when it's focused on them, you can begin to have a two-way conversation that shows them just what you're saying, how their life will
mhm,
be improved um,
mhm.
by using your product or service.
Or
Or
not,
not.
I've had
Not.
conversations too that it came out of, "Oh, geez, I'd really love to work with you, but you know what? I'm really not the right person
Yep.
at this moment. There's something else you need before we would even work together." And that really takes, I don't know, you really have to be a person who's okay with not making a sale because you're truly helping that person. You're guiding them to the direction that is going to help them.
And that's
Uh,
that speaks to that whole share service, benevolent kind of selling. You have integrity and you're being honest. You may even be able to
mhm,
refer them to a strategic partner or a colleague or someone that will be better suited to them. The other
mhm,
important thing is when you're having this conversation, saying little about themselves. And if they do talk about price, again, to your point, we don't push, but we might point out to them the opportunity cost, um, what's lost if they don't proceed with your product or service. Something may develop that in the long run will end up costing them more money. So that's still acting with integrity, but working with them on the price, helping them realize that is important as well. And then finally, of
mhm,
course, you have to ask for the sale or ask them, does what we're talking about, does what I'm offering seem as if it would suit you at this particular time? Is that something that would appeal to you?
mhm. Well, it's not so much would it appeal to you. I'm learning different language that's a little bit goes
Iffy.
more in depth. I mean, to me, does that appeal to you? I don't know, it's just so easy for somebody no, it doesn't appeal to me. But anyways, I wanted to take a little bit of time in our conversation, Barbara, to also talk about from the other side of the customer. And as a customer, Barbara, we get bombarded at times with people who, but I just want to share this with you. Can I tell you how this can help you or anything? And you're like, oh, do I need one more sales conversation? What is that happy balance? We as business owners want to be talking to people about what we do and having that sales conversation. But then again, on the flip side, the prospective client, it's like, oh, and I don't mean to beat any industry up, but just to mention, like the financial industry, how many people just say, "Well, let me just take a look at what you have and see if I can help you," and everything. It's like, "Well, hold on a minute here." Every week you could be meeting a different financial person, and it's like, what, you're just supposed to, hand over what you've got, say, show me, they make it sound, oh, it's just simple. Just show me what you have and we'll see if we can help you more. That industry, I do have a problem with, because they wanna make it sound like, "Oh, it's so harmless and so quick and everything." But if you said yes to every person that you met that was in the financial business, oh my gosh, yeah, you could be going through that conversation every week probably. What is that happy medium of, taking from the customer side, us as the customer saying yes to a conversation with someone. And I guess it's just basically like if we have a need in what the person does. But then again, I think we need to at times be open to listening a little bit longer to what the person is saying before we cut them off and saying, "No, I don't wanna talk to you."
It-
You know what I mean?
I
Um
think that's actually interesting, and to tap into that a bit. Um, I've dealt with sales folks who want me oftentimes to make a decision right away. And while I think being indecisive about things can be difficult, if it's a big purchase, it's going to cost a lot of money. I like the opportunity of doing the proverbial sleep on it. I like the opportunity of thinking about it and looking at my current budget. I even like the opportunity to be able to get my spouse's opinion on it. Now, there's some people would say that that's wrong, but I do think when you're speaking from the customer or client side, that is my prerogative, because there's nothing better than purchasing something and feeling really good about it, making the most of it, and really seeing the outcome that was promised. And
Mhm,
everybody has different buying patterns. So, to your point, again,
mhm.
from the customer perspective, I like to know that my agency, if you will, in making buying decisions is being respected.
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, this whole conversation on sales, it's
It
both
is.
sides of the coin. Us as the business owner wanting to have these conversations with as many people as possible, but then again, we can't look at, "Oh, everybody's a prospect of ours." I know they're not for me, Barbara, and I'm sure not every person is a prospect for you either. So it takes before you even can get to that point of having a sales conversation, it takes, getting out there and meeting, how many more people to find that one person to have the
And
conversation with.
that's right,
Um,
too. It's that ideal
yeah.
customer, because otherwise you're spinning your wheels. You're not being as productive.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think it comes down to, now this comes into your area of messaging and whatnot, but if we have the right messaging, the right 30-second commercial, it's helping those people that we're in touch with to self-identify and possibly come and
And
talk to
that
us.
that is absolutely key, because if it's not clear what you offer, it will be confusing them, and confusion never fosters a sale, which
Yeah.
is also important about from the perspective of the person selling the service, the consistency
Mhm.
aspect. When you speak about messaging, you are consistent in that message whenever you're presenting, whether you're on the phone, making cold calls, giving a speech, writing on your website, blocking, sending out an email. There is that consistency that's necessary. So, again, people won't be confused.
Yeah. So I hope our audience has found this valuable, given you some things to think about if sales is something that really is a struggle for you, we just suggest find somebody that is a sales coach. There are some people out there that is their specialty. And we just encourage you to tune in to our next episode of Soapbox Wisdom. Soapbox Wisdom is hosted by brand messaging and storytelling consultant Barbara Menino and business and mindset coach Christine Rothdeutsch. You can find them online at barbaramenino.com.